record on this computer. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is this thing on? Yes, it is.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, and thank you for joining the both of us on our Wellness Wednesday, Happy Hippie Me, where our health is our wealth. My name is Wendi Vaughn.
And I'm Pili Bailey.
And together, we will conquer the world. No, like literally though. We're going to be a part of that. So Happy Hippie Me likes to bring real life testimonials about what works for us in our health journeys. And hopefully that will shed light on things going on in your own life. And we also like to remind everybody that a lot of the things we share are the tools that we've used to help ease our lives and bring peace and joy to us. But in no way do they replace anything you may get from your healthcare professional. So please, if you're having any severe issues, contact your pharmacist, not your physician, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We like to share what we've learned because one of the things that I truly believe in is that we need to be an integral part of our own healthcare plan. Like we're a part of the healthcare team. When we're going in to see our doctors or any of our clinicians that are taking care of us and helping us to feel well, we need to really know our bodies and really like you've been with your body longer than any other person that you know. So they can give you the guidance that they've gotten from seeing many, many bodies over long periods of time.
Right.
But nobody knows you like you know you. And so we have to be able to advocate for ourselves. We have to be able to know what's normal in our bodies so that we can be able to express that to our physicians, our healthcare teams that are helping us. And we have to be willing to look in other avenues because honestly, the way our American healthcare system is set up, our physicians, especially our primary care doctors, they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with all of the things that they have to do, with all of the patients they have to see, with all of the paperwork they have to do. And so they can't know all the things, right? All the complementary tools that we can use in addition to some of the Western medicines. And so we really are a resource to our physicians, to our healthcare team, as we do some of the research for ourselves and we bring that before them and we allow them, we say, hey, this is what I found. What do you think of this? So I've definitely been doing that on my healthcare journey. And I know, Wendi, you have definitely taken an active role in your healthcare.
Yes, I have.
And so I feel like that's one of the main messages that we want to bring with Happy Hippie Me is that we're all empowered to be a part of our own healthcare journey, health and wellness journey.
I totally agree. I want to definitely, because a lot of our messaging it's really for all people, and we take a special interest in women and women of color because just our own lives and what has been passed down to us generationally and what we've experienced. But as Pili just said, I took in the beginning of my health and wellness journey, when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I was going to a medically trained MD doctor. So when he told me to do something, I figured he just knew because I didn't have any clue what was going on. I never even had chicken pox. So I most certainly was out of my normal groove. But he was doing things like not giving me the right medicine or giving me the right medicine, but not explaining how to actually take it. And it was wreaking more havoc on my body. So it forced me to have to start becoming my own advocate and getting more into it. And I also I became a little bit more, choosy with my doctors as well. And it would be like, I don't like that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm leaving. And I would talk to, the people in my life that were supporting me, my parents, and, and they would help me make those changes until I got to a doctor who really was doing this together as a team. And so I just really want to throw that out there to anybody watching. Don't feel intimidated because they have the degrees and all that stuff. They are practicing medicine.
That's why they call it a practice. Yes.
They are practicing. So that's just, my little 4 cents. And thank you, Pili, for that. So tonight we are going to be discussing gut issues, which a lot of us are now starting to find out the gut is also called the second brain to certain people because of all of the different similarities that go on between the gut and the brain. And Pili and I both have had really like close connections with the different things that the gut brings along with our overall health aspect. Because the thing is, just because you're having an issue in one area of your body doesn't mean that other areas aren't also affected and working together, because everything is holistically connected. So where should we start? Should we start with let's see, there's so many things. Let me start with sharing a little bit about my personal journey with gut issues. Okay. So, I would label myself as an empath, somebody who is extremely aware of my surrounding, very aware of people's feelings and wanting to make sure that people are happy, wanting to please people, my employers, my parents, my family, my boyfriend, my friends. So, because when things didn't sit well, when I felt something was off, the first place it would hurt me was in my stomach. It would just, my gut would be just in knots. I remember being 13 and my crush, 3 years older, we know him well. He used to, Pili is my cousin, you guys. I don't know if you realize that, but we go back like forever. And so when the little heartbreaks would happen of the young teenage years, the gut was in knots and loss of appetite and all of those kind of things. So I've always had my first pain center be in the gut. And I know many of us do when we get into those near car accidents possibly, or those things that kind of scare us and jolt us. That's like, we feel it in our gut. And so that is because, when we go into a fight or flight, adrenaline pressing moment in our bodies, I mean, literally chemically, things go on that allow us to either fight or take off, run to get to safety. In our society today, all kinds of things are pressing that button, but that button was supposed to be used for getting away from lions, tigers, and bears, and making sure that we were bringing things to safety, like life or death moments.
Yeah.
But now life or death moments feel like getting to work on time. Did we get that 10th thing on our checklist of to-dos, and it's almost 12 midnight,
or somebody sent you a text and you're angsting over how you're going to respond to that text? I'm sorry, am I the only one?
No, let me tell you, for us people pleasers, how we respond to people so that we can be understood and also make sure the other person understands we're coming from the best possible place, guys. Those are the kind of things that now we're just like fretting over to a point of making ourselves sick, quite literally. So in 2005, I was having so many issues with my digestive system. I had to finally go to a doctor. And at this time, I didn't have health insurance. I'd been to a doctor for, the regular checkup stuff, women's stuff, but never for anything majorly serious. And that's when I found out that I had something called Crohn's disease, which is a form of inflammatory bowel disease. It affects at least 1.5 million Americans and another 1.5 who don't even know that they are dealing with either Crohn's or colitis. Inflammatory bowel disease affects millions of people around the world and mostly in Western developed nations. So that also has something to do with sometimes why certain things present because of your environment, not just your biology. And so these are the kinds of things that, you know, as I started to learn more about this condition, I was amazed at how much what goes into your body. Of course, the foods that we eat, how much they can have an effect. Of course, there were medications, but there was also a lot of uncertainty from the doctors on how to treat it because it just isn't one of those diseases that gets all the bells and whistle attention. Nowadays, you can actually see a couple of commercials about it. There are drugs that people advertise. There's a lot more awareness about it, but it's still something that oftentimes gets misdiagnosed. Not to mention your irritable bowel syndrome and your celiac disease, your diverticulitis, you know, your gastritis. And I'm talking about young kids are having these issues, stressing over finals and tests and getting straight A's and their parents fighting. And, you know, like there's so many layers of the things that we have this angst over that can lead to us having unsettled stomachs, not to mention the foods that we eat and the toxins, Pili, that we may be
put
putting
on our bodies. Yeah. But the thing, like, as you're talking about the angst, right? Like one of the things I'm super conscious of the words that we use, right? I'm super conscious of the words that I say to express how I'm feeling or what's going on in my life. And I'm super conscious of the words that are coming back at me from other people in my life and just kind of how those words affect. And one of the things I've noticed that my son does, and he's only 5, he always says, Mom, I feel very nervous about that. Mom, I feel very nervous. I feel very nervous about that, you know, and he says it over and over and over in a lot of different situations and contexts. And I've just recognized, and then he also bites his nails. And, you know, that is something that, you know, my husband does. And I just recognize from a young age that he is very aware of how people feel around him. So I'm picking up on the fact that he might be an empath, you know. He'll ask me in the car as we're driving, he'll be like, Mom, are you feeling happy today? Or are you feeling sad today? You know, like he's just very curious about what are my feelings and how am I feeling, and how I feel definitely affects how he feels. And so just recognizing that even at a very young age, even in our kids that are pre-verbal, you know, there might be this predisposition towards, you know, having anxious feelings, being very concerned in social settings and things like that. And how can we start to develop this conversation to be able to talk about those things before it erupts into something like irritable bowel syndrome or any of those other issues.
Well, and it's true. I think one of the things that I was looking up, so like in our chakras, our 7 chakras, the area where the gut really resides in the chakra system is our solar plex. And that's really that midsection, like below the chest and like just above like the pelvis. So like right in there, that's where you get your sense of esteem, like your self-esteem and your understanding.
Your power.
Your power. You're good enough. I know that sounds
your
like
ambition and your greed.
Right. I mean,
all those things.
But a lot of people, like when you say, I'm worth it, I'm good enough. Like, of course I know that. Of course I'm good enough. I know that stuff. Like there's one layer of our, I think, psyche that clearly gets that. And then there's another layer that kind of doesn't. And I think that's the part that we're not always aware of.
Right.
I believe that self-love is very visible and self-compassion is very visible. So if you find yourself doing things like Pili and I were talking earlier, drinking a lot of coffee. Now, I don't think coffee is a bad thing, but too much of anything is a bad thing.
Can be a problem, yeah.
And that coffee with that caffeine is irritating. It's very acidic, and it does irritate your bowels. And I can actually say, when I think about all the things that were going on around the time of my diagnosis of Crohn's, I had become a teacher. Coffee is part of the culture of being a teacher, because I was a young teacher too. So I had a little bit of like haterade in the game. So the way I related to everybody was like, hey guys, good morning. I'd try to bring treats. I'd enjoy a cup of coffee with my coworkers. And I just started drinking coffee. It started even in college, really pulling all-nighters. But now I'm drinking it black as a teacher because I graduated. No more sugar, just black coffee. My brother was killed in 2004. And I mean, right after that, right around the beginning of the year, I started to develop more issues with my digestive system, to the point where it manifested into something called fistula. Long story short, I was limping because of all these digestive issues. And by 2005, I was finally diagnosed with Crohn's. Like, it just was getting progressively worse. So when I look at what I was putting into my body, what I was experiencing in my world, all of those different emotions and pain, along with good stuff too. So, there was this kind of seesaw effect going. Like, I still was staying positive. I had a loving, supportive family. So, that's probably what allowed me to keep up for so long. But eventually, I did start to present some different issues. And then hereditary, my mom had different types of ulcers in her stomach. So long story short, I definitely want to stress. I definitely want to highlight the importance of what Pili said about not just what we surround ourselves with, but what's coming out of our mouths. Mm-hmm. What are we putting out into the energy? Because we are influenced, and we are human. So I'm not talking about not having a real moment to express yourself, because that leads to other stuff. High blood pressure, just in case you're wondering. As far as your stomach, there's a book that Pili and I both love, and it's called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Mm-hmm. This woman, she had a crazy upbringing. Her life is, it wasn't dealt the best hand. And she learned over time, after beating cancer and all kinds of stuff, that our thought life and those negative thought patterns that we can sometimes get into, just because stuff ain't always right, and in order to protect ourselves, we have to learn how to, there's certain things that we teach ourselves, but how to reverse that, and what types of conditions come as a result of that negative thought life. So let's talk a little bit about the gut issues that are in that book.
Yeah. So I'm actually reading from the Heal Your Body little booklet, which is basically in the You Can Heal Your Life. Louise Hay tells her whole story, and she basically takes you through, like, she was a coach, a life coach, and she takes you through what a session would look like if you were to meet with her, and how you would start to uncover some of your own hidden issues that are affecting your health. And then in the back of the book, she has this whole like appendices. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she has this whole appendix, and you can look up different body parts, different issues that you're having, and it'll be associated with a certain feeling or a thought that might be predominating. And then it'll be paired with what is the positive affirmation to counteract that. So it's really great. Since we're talking about the digestion, one of the first things that will alert us to a problem in our digestion is if we're not digesting well, right? So indigestion, which covers a lot of different, things, but let's just talk about indigestion. And so that's associated with a gut level fear or dread, anxiety, of an act of gripping or grunting. It's like when something is coming at you as an animal in the animal kingdom, when something is coming at them, what do? They insulate, they hide their gut, because
Yep.
that is your most sensitive, vulnerable area where your vital organs are. So they hide their gut, they crouch down, they go into a ball. So like thinking about it in those terms, it's no wonder that we hide our fear in that region, right?
Mm.
It's also like a seat of some of our emotions. So like when we're in yoga and we do a lot of poses that work that third chakra, the solar plexus, you might come out of that class as a rip roaring biatch, right? Like you're just angry, and all of this anger that you've been storing and stuffing and, you know, medicating with food and with drinks and with whatever it is, you know, like all those things that you've been storing down there
Yep.
will get kicked up and out of the surface and start to come out. So anyway, indigestion can be associated with fear, dread, and anxiety. I'm going to quickly look over here to, so we also have heartburn, which is fear, 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 clutching fear. Okay, so you're seeing that there's a reoccurring theme here. I'm going to look now at gastritis, a prolonged uncertainty, a feeling of doom. You know, how many times have you had this like, oh, my stomach feels queasy, when you know there's something that's coming up, or maybe you're procrastinating, or, you know, you're in danger and your stomach feels like, oh, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like it's all in there. Gas pains, flatulence, having indigestion, right? Undigested ideas. That's what Louise Hay says. Like when you're having undigested ideas that maybe come, and then you're just like, oh, let's just push that away. You haven't really let it come and sit with it. The inspiration that comes, and instead of really allowing that to flow and to come out and to really see it, you decided, oh, I can't do that for whatever reason, or maybe somebody else has told you you can't do that. And again, it's seated in gripping fear, right? So you're too afraid to go in and look at that. And then I'm just going to briefly look at the colon and what that has to do. All right, colon.
Now, colon. I should have all these memorized.
Okay, so I'm going to look at colon. Holding on to the past, fear of letting go. And then colitis. This is what you talked about a little bit earlier. Colitis, insecurity, represents the ease of letting go of that which is over. So how many of us are still holding on to things that we should have let go a long time ago? And because we're still gripping it and holding on to it, we can't let it go. We're suffering in our digestion. We're suffering in our colon. We're suffering with indigestion, constipation, you know, maybe even sometimes like the diarrhea stuff. I mean, it's just it's so crazy, because every time I have an issue, I go to this book. And it's always dead on of what it is that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Dead on. So one last thing, constipation, refusing to release old ideas, stuck in the past, and sometimes stinginess. So not wanting to be free, not wanting to let go, not wanting to release.
And not letting to want people in, possibly even, or share. Like share your true self, your true heart. So all of the things, you know, this is the cool thing about it. When you hear this stuff, if it doesn't go like and hit you in the gut initially, like, oh, that's me. Or like, oh, I know what that means, or I know what that's referring to. It'll come to you. It'll marinate, and you'll think about those things and
digest those ideas.
Digest the ideas, please. But your health, okay? We love
your health.
And the colitis, any itis you hear, guys, you know that's inflammation. Inflammation, also in her book, she says, is caused by being hypercritical. It's being, you know, as an analytic, also somebody who likes to make sure that things are perfect. You know, that is a great skill in certain settings, but in certain settings of, oh, let me nitpick my face or how I look today. And then if you do it to yourself, guess who else you're going to do it to?
Other
Everybody
people.
else.
Yeah, I tend to find that if somebody is super, super judgmental or super critical of my appearance, it tends to be that they're just as obsessed with their own appearance or just as critical. You know what I mean? Like I have some people in my life, my family or whatever, that will kind of look me up and down and point out if I have a pimple, if a hair is astray, if I've gained weight, whatever it is, like they just always have to have a comment on how I look. And, I am more of a person that always has to comment on how are you feeling? Like I really care about that, which I think is probably why you and I
Right.
really get each other,
Absolutely.
because I can read a temperature in the room. I can see the faces. I scan a room when I'm in a room, and I'm looking for the person that is not engaged, that is on the fringes, that no one's talking to, and I feel bad for that person.
Yeah.
So when I'm at a party, it's actually probably not that great, because it's hard for me to just sit down and dial in with one person.
Right.
Because I have my scanners on, wanting to make sure that everyone is doing well.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a gift. A lot of the things that make us the best part of us sometimes can also be the part of us that we sometimes have to smack into balance, because out of check, when it's unchecked, it can lead to other things. And so when it comes to this whole gut issue, there is hope. Okay. Medically, if you're dealing with things like anything with the gut, there's a ton of over-the-counter medications that can help settle, which you can do a simple Google search on. If you're having gut issues and you're not quite sure what it is, but it's to the point where you're bleeding from your rectum, you are severely constipated and haven't gone in more than 3 days, you have a lot of pain in your gut because you feel like it's gassy, but it won't release, anything like that, I say go to urgent care or emergency, especially if you don't have insurance, because sometimes when you force that issue, they will have to see you. A doctor, an actual real doctor, has to put their eyes on you to tell you what is going on. This is what worked for me. Okay. Once again, this is what worked for me. But in order to really find out what type of care I needed to go to doctors who weren't going to turn me away for any other reason. And they ended up doing something called a colonoscopy, which is a scope that goes up your colon so they can see what's going on. And I had ulcers. I had something called fistula, which is like abnormal connections between different organs, so that it could all get like this muck out, from the ulcers. And ulcers like these open sores internally. So it wasn't like you could just, there was nothing that I knew to do, nor does the medical community at this time, to cure Crohn's or to cure colitis. But what I have turned to, because of their inability to actually have a cure, is holistic medicine. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of nutritional things. The specific carbohydrate diet, that's called the SCD diet, specific carbohydrate diet. You can go to a site called pecanbread.com, and I'll make sure to put this in the description as well, these resources. It will give you different ways of eating for the different stages of inflammation that you have. Because I know a lot of us go, well, let's just eat fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. But if you are in a highly inflamed state, fresh fruits and vegetables will actually kick you into a flare-up, kick you into...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because fresh fruits and vegetables require your body to do a lot of work and a lot of digestion. If you are already having some inflammation, chronic inflammation, you need something almost like baby food. You need to go get you a crock pot, make some split pea soup, or go to Whole Foods and get you some split pea soup and just eat that. But the main things about the specific carbohydrate diet is that you get rid of added sugar, you get rid of multi sugar. So like it's
Multigrain.
polysaccharides, all grains, all
Mm.
starches, and all sugars, and of
Okay.
course gluten. Got to get rid of those things. Your body's enzymes are broken, and those types of foods, your body for some reason isn't able to digest well. So it leaves food that's not digest particles on a metabolic level in your gut. And then what happens? That's the perfect breeding ground for the bacteria. That's the bad bacteria. Now we need a balance of good and bad bacteria. I don't know the names. So every site that you go on, unless you're a medical doctor and want to get into that nitty gritty, they just call it good and bad. And you need a balance of good and bad in the gut. But what happens when you don't digest your food properly is that you start to breed too much of one of those bacteria, and the waste and the eating and the breeding is what causes the inflammation, and it's constantly going like this. So in the beginning, when you go like this, it doesn't hurt. But if you keep doing that exact motion for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it will bore some type of a hole there, not a
Mm-hmm.
hole like through the whole thing, but you know what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say. It'll be a scar. And if that's going on inside of you all the time and you can't see it, it might take a while, but over that time, that's why you start having some of those pains. So that diet, the SCD diet, is wonderful, and it has led to a lot of remission and reversals for people. And some people stay on it forever, but it is difficult, and it does really take your participation for that one.
And I feel like that's like what you hear a lot, right? It's like you're having an issue, and when you decide that you want to do the holistic route, the first thing they tell you to do is, well, you got to change your diet. And it seems like a lot of these change your diet prescriptions are telling you some of the like very same things, you
Mhm.
know, with the exception of this one where you're saying some fruits and vegetables might even inflame you, which is, because it's too much fiber, I guess your body needs to reset itself to be able to get back into balance. So, but that is so very interesting. And I think that we're starting to become more aware
Mhm.
that our food in America is what is causing a lot of our distress.
Mhm.
We're starting to be aware of that. However, there are resistances towards changing like this, right? And I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, okay, so as we're talking to women, we're talking to women of color, we're talking to the caregivers, the nurturers. It's a lot of times that we as women will be willing to change our diets, but then we have husbands and we have kids that are like, I'm not eating that,
Mhm.
and they're used to the convenience foods, the processed foods, the high fat, not fat's not bad. That's not bad. But like the high, calorie foods that are lack nutrition,
Mhm.
but are filling
Mhm.
and they're easy. And, we start to build our worlds around these things. Like I remember last month, we went to so many birthday parties and I was so sick of eating pizza. Okay. And then if you have a birthday party for kids, they don't like anything on their pizza. So it's basically cheese pizza or pepperoni pizza. And I was like, if I never see another pizza, you know what I mean? Like this is, and pizza's great. Don't get me wrong. Pizza's good, but dang, man, it was just so much. And like, this is our kids are living on flour and sugar and, juice and
Yep.
rice,
Yep.
and so really starting the change can be tough. Like Wendy's saying, it can be hard. You're fighting against traditions sometimes. You're fighting against cultures sometimes. You're fighting against what your family is used to.
Yep.
Also, sometimes you're fighting against, okay, well, our budget says we can only do this.
Right.
And so how do you eat healthy? How do you change some of these things that you've been eating that
Maybe
it's,
that can be a topic
yeah,
of
we should
how to do
definitely,
healthy. We can like just bring certain, I don't know, like healthy snacks or just healthy, quick, convenient meals. Because we are still entrepreneurs or full-time working. Some of us students. So how do we do this? So
How do you do it? Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's hard. And I feel like, it's something that I work on, I struggle with every day. I think we also, as women, we have to catch ourselves, because we can get into a rut of judging ourselves for the things that we've eaten or the things that we haven't eaten.
Yeah.
I remember not growing up, but when I was in college and like in my mid 20s, I had friends and like, I call my friend, girl, how's your day? Da, 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 da. And I had friends that would like go down a list. Oh girl, I was good today. I only ate dot, da, dot, da, dot, da, dot, and it's like, why do we call food good? Or why do we have this moralistic attachment to what we eat and what we don't eat, whether we're good or we're not good, whether we're,
You said, oh, you better moralistic. Guys, let me tell you, if anything you're eating, if you feel bad about eating it, it is going to have a negative effect, even if it's your cheat day and you deserve it. Because zigging and zagging, that's something that I love that Tony Robbins says. He's more of a strict person, regimented, eats this, and this. His wife is a bit more zag. He's a zigger, she's a zagger. And together, they had a lot of kind of growing and learning. He talks about this in a lot of his YouTube videos. And what I took from that is that you've got to have that balance. And while you're doing certain things, you can't have a guilt about it, or else that's going to set into your gut. I mean, for real. Because have you ever seen somebody who could eat almost anything? And I mean, some of this is genetic. I'm not saying go out and eat just whatever you want without being wise, right? We want to always execute our wisdom. Yes. But if you decide to eat something, stand up and go, I've decided to do this and I'm okay with it. Be okay with it, because it is okay. It is okay.
It is okay. Yeah, we're here. We want to help people feel good. And part of that is you got to feel good right where you are. You have to start to embrace yourself right where you are. One of I forget if it was Louise Hay or if it was Byron Katie. I can't remember which one it was, but Byron Katie's another person that you need to look up if you don't already know who she is. And as we're talking about the way that we think on things and how our thoughts can lead us down a path that affects our health. So in this, thinking about don't lose my train of thought. No, so thinking about how you see your path that you're on, right? So if I'm thinking I'm so bad because I just ate this pizza pie, right? Like, is that really true? Am I bad because I ate this pizza pie? Like, and okay, if I'm thinking, oh, I'm just so fat and I need to lose weight because I'm so fat. Well, then what is my motivation for getting healthy? It's self-loathing. And when we're trying to make a change out of a place of self-loathing or shame, it does not work. Our bodies are like, no, like you're beating me up. And then also sometimes the weight that we put on is our body's way of protecting us, right? So if we've gone through extreme trauma or we're in a very stressful season of our lives, if we're feeling anxious all the time, our bodies are like, don't worry, we got this. We're going to protect you. Let's slow down that metabolism and put on fat, because that's armor, right? That's armor. And so she talked about the fact that, when she was trying to lose weight from a place of, oh my God, you're so fat. I can't believe you just ate that second chip, or you just had that third glass of wine, or blah, 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 blah. She was not able to lose any weight. When she started accepting herself right where she was, when she started looking at herself and saying in the mirror, so this must have been Louise Hay, in the mirror every day, you're just so beautiful. Wow. I just love you. You
Wow.
are amazing. I am so proud of you. And she would look herself in the eye every morning and just affirm to herself out loud
Hmm.
how much she loved herself. And from doing that and starting to renew her mind in the fact that she was a beautiful person, beautiful woman, a beautiful, being on this earth, she was able to start, her body just started shedding the weight, right?
Guys, let me tell you, I was going to try to leave you with some tips. We've given you some resources. We'll put them down there again, but love heals. It truly does. It is a healing agent, but we don't always understand what love is sometimes. What Pili just said, that self appreciation, as she spoke, did you not just feel a little bit of kind of like just literally coast over your entire body? That is the power of love and affirming yourself and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you're worth it. Realizing that just because you didn't finish the marathon today, life has happened to you. You have a reason for every single thing you've chosen and how you are,
Mm-hmm.
and you're okay, and you're doing well, and you're beautiful. Like, those things all together, like, when you start thinking, I think sometimes you have to say those things to yourself to remind you what you've come from, because sometimes you can forget. It could be like, oh, I didn't do very much today. Today I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very productive. A word that is very
Mm-hmm.
good and sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guilt, that shame, I think that's the main thing. We're just going to throw in the wastebasket. We're just going to go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and do that. And I think that's a great place to kind of sum up what
Mm-hmm.
we've been discussing today on gut issues and how
Yeah.
to relieve and heal the gut, literally. Oh
I
man.
want to do one thing just in terms of, because we talked about anxiety
Yeah.
and we talked about the gut being a place where fear is stored.
Yeah.
So, one of the easiest things, or maybe it's not that easy, but one of the things that I found that's been the most helpful for me is when I feel like my stomach is gripping, when I can observe that my body is holding on to tension. It's to first acknowledge it. So that's self-awareness. My tummy feels like it's in knots, or it's doing flips. And so first self-acknowledgement, self-awareness, and then breathing.
Hmm.
So I just thought maybe as we conclude, maybe we can take just a few moments to breathe. And when we breathe, I suggest, just as we're doing this for the belly, just to place your hands right there on your abdomen so that you're able to allow your attention to move to that area. And if you feel inclined or comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes or keep them open and allow yourself to just feel how the abdomen moves in and out as you breathe. So when you breathe in, the abdomen expands and presses out into your hands. And as you exhale, feel how the abdomen recedes, moving away from the hands. And with each exhalation, allow that breath to become slower, longer. When you can allow your exhalation to be twice as long as your inhalation, you're starting to move your body into a relaxation mode.
Hmm.
And you might already feel the knots start to unravel in the belly as you breathe. So that's one of the tools that I use when I can observe that I'm holding on to anxiety or anxiousness in my abdomen. Like Wendy said, we have other tools, but we want to just kind of leave us on that tip of love yourself and then be aware of who you are and just give yourself that time to breathe.
Yes. Man, oh, self-appreciation. I'm telling you, that like, if you, I think that's the greatest thing. Self-love, visible self-love for yourself is visible love for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Love for yourself is love for everybody else. And that is true. Well, I think that's a great note to leave on. I hope you all enjoyed and really got some nuggets from tonight talking about the gut and the different things that cause some of those issues and the beauty in how we can heal ourselves as well. Just excellent. Thank you so much, my cousin. Please check us out on YouTube, Happy Hippie Me, and our Instagram, Happy Hippie Me as well. And we'll see you in the threads and see you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.